Welcome to Empire Building. I'm Wendy Papazan, and together with my 4 co-hosts, we bring you weekly unfiltered conversations about leadership, growing a big empire, and living on your own terms.
I'm Kimber Lovett-Keedy. We are investors and wealth builders with over $75 million in combined net worth.
I'm Sarah Reynolds. We are visionaries who built more than 50 businesses with over $122 million in annual revenue.
I'm Tiffany Fikes. We've led thousands of people and do it all while being pretty good moms.
And I'm Seychelle Van Poole. We are your podcast to learn how to build big businesses and even bigger lives. Welcome back to the Empire Building Podcast. I'm Seychelle Van Poole, and I am here with my 2 amazing co-hosts. I have Tiffany Fikes and Kimber Lovett-Keedy with me today. And I am very excited for this topic because I think this is something that all 3 of us have been experiencing over the last, let's say forever, but really the last year. And it's a topic that I personally have been dealing with inwardly a lot as a leader, as a wife, as a mom, as a daughter. And so I'm excited for us to jump into this topic today. And I'm not even going to spoil it for you because we're going to give you a quote instead to lead it off. So in the school of life, difficult people are the faculty. They teach us our most important spiritual lessons, the lessons that we would be most unlikely to learn on our own. And that is from Mark Rosen. And so we're going to talk about difficult people today. I don't know, do you guys have any difficult people in your life at all?
I wondered if you were referencing all of our teenage children in that intro.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I was like,
I think when we wrote this, that wasn't what we were thinking, but sitting here today could be about our children.
It could be.
3 teenage boys over here. So I feel like some days I'm like, what? Who is anybody normal in my house?
It is real. And it's amazing too, as we've now been, 6 years at this podcast plus, the seasons that you go through and the lessons that we learn, and you learn differently as we go through those seasons. And so I think this one, in the world in which we're in the stage of life in which we're in, and the teams that we have, this is such an applicable topic and probably one every couple of years that we have to go back and revisit again because life keeps serving you difficult people. It's not going to end.
Mm-mm. And I think as things are less certain, it's it creates, I feel like, I don't know what you guys feel like, I feel like the world, I'm like, are people getting crazier? I mean, I realize I'm also getting older, but it's I think as there's less certainty, right? And it makes people even more on edge. And so that shows up a lot more in our lives.
Well, and that's what I was going to say is I actually don't think there's more difficult people. I just think we're faced with them, social media and everybody has a microphone. And so it's the difficult people we weren't interacting with as much as now we're faced with the reality of what all the people in the world think about everything. So,
as much as we want to believe that our AI agents will be all of the teams and our families, right? We will still have to interact in the real world with real humans, at least I think in the foreseeable future. So we have to have some strategies to do it effectively.
Yeah. I totally agree. Well, I'm excited for this topic, even though it's not something that we all enjoy dealing with. I'm excited to talk about it because giving ourselves the tools to succeed with difficult people and allowing you to keep your peace and your joy and thrive when you're dealing with difficult people is absolutely the way to go. So let's jump into the topic today and let's help all of us, including ourselves, work on thriving when we're dealing with difficult people.
Right. Well, I think the first thing you need to understand about difficult people is you have to deal with them. It's not I can avoid those kind of people. I can put up guardrails that keep them out of my yard and my life. And that may be true, but then you raise these really great kids that then turn into difficult children within your yard, and you raised them. But the reality is difficult people don't cease to be difficult just because you don't want to face the reality of that. And so the situation doesn't get better if it's left unaddressed. That can be a client who is difficult, who isn't working within your process or is saying mean things. There have been all kinds of versions of that I've dealt with, but they don't change if you don't address it. So number one, you got to address it because it's not going to get better without that. And 1A is really, that's very, very hard if you're a people pleaser. Like if you, Seychelle's raising her hand.
I just raised my hand. I'm like, that is me. It is me. I am them.
Yes.
I'm the problem. It's me.
It is me.
So just know that being a people pleaser is going to make it very difficult dealing with difficult people because some people can't be pleased.
Oh, that is so hard. I know you say that out loud, but like, I just really don't like that, even though we're talking about it today.
So he's like, they haven't met me yet, and I'm going to.
That's right.
Just you wait. Just you wait.
I agree with you, and I don't like it.
Well, and I think for me, like the hardest thing was realizing that those difficult people aren't actually going to change, even if you address it. Like you can only change the way you deal with them. So that was really hard for me because I'm like, they just need some more information, or they just need to understand how this is affecting me. And then they're going to make different choices. And that's not true. So most of the time, that's not the reality. It's me. I've got to figure out how to function around difficult people, how to absorb, how to not absorb some of the things that they throw at me. So number one, we're talking about this because you have to deal with it. It is something that's going to be in your life and all kinds of different ways that it's uncomfortable, but you got to deal with it.
Yep. You got to get real before you can get right.
That's right.
Get real. Like it is a reality.
I received this and I still don't like it, but I admit that it's real. So then the second thing we have to deal with is we have to actually start out examining ourselves first. And that is hard because that takes some self-actualization and reflection. And sometimes we have to ask ourselves, like, is this a pattern for me? Like, am I creating situations that make people be difficult, right? Sometimes you may set expectations with people that then force them to be difficult with you because they're expectations they couldn't meet. Sometimes it's you're attracting them into your world and then not creating like situations for success. So you need to ask yourself, like, if you're being surrounded by difficult people all the time, you might be the problem.
What's the common denominator?
What is And are they being difficult with everybody else? Like, does everyone else perceive them as a difficult person? Or is everyone just difficult for you? Because that could be a pattern where like you are actually the problem in the situation. And then the second part of that is admitting your DNA in it. It's very difficult to do that. It is. I'm not saying that's easy, but it takes some self-awareness and emotional intelligence, which we believe all of you listening have, to like take a step back and be like, okay, if everyone's being difficult in my life, if my team is being combative, or my kids are all having a hard time, and my significant other is also being very difficult in the moment, and life just feels really hard, and everyone's being difficult, maybe you just need to take a step back and like chill it out. And ask yourself if you're putting yourself into these situations and setting expectations and doing things that are actually forcing everybody to be difficult with you.
And I think that's a powerful reframe, right? Because sometimes it's not that the people are difficult, it's that the situations are hard. And so if you're in a hard situation and your perception is like, oh my God, everybody's just being so difficult. Well, sometimes it's like, look at the situation. Is the situation you're in just a really challenging situation? Mm-hmm. And then it kind of also allows you to like
be less emotional about it too.
Yeah, and give the people that identity. It's like, okay, well, maybe like if you're constantly procrastinating and so you're waiting to the last minute and then you're like, I don't understand why like the kids are screaming about what we have to do. Well, like, did you give them a schedule? Did they have time?
Yeah. Did you set unrealistic expectations they could never have met anyways, and so now they're melting down? I mean, you're exactly right. Well, and I think too, there are sometimes people are just difficult. They are the difficult person, right? And so whichever the scenario Kimber beautifully brought up, like maybe it's a situation, maybe it is a person, the next best step is to have a vulnerable conversation with them. I will give you an example of my parenting. I have an amazing 12-year-old. My 12-year-old is awesome and sometimes very difficult. And so the conversation we had this week when we were trying to get out the door and nothing was put together, nothing was set up, and she's saying she's ready and nothing is ready, is to say, you're making this very hard on me to be on time right now. And I need to be really real with you that when you tell me you're ready and it's still 20 minutes later and we're not ready, this is causing stress and we're going to be late for all these other things that you want to do later today. So I need your help in us Like being real with where we're at and what's happening in our world and our schedule so that we can get out the door on time, right? And it's asking for buy-in. It's being real with them that it's causing frustration for you or causing anxiety or causing whatever the emotion is you're feeling on your end, but having an open and honest conversation with them and letting them know that they could have a part to play in that too, that we could make this better, right? If this were a difficult person, the way you could model that could be, may I have an honest conversation with you? When you're acting this way, it makes me feel really stressed. Or when you say these things, it causes me immense amounts of anxiety. And I would love it if we could find a better way to communicate with each other, right? That could be a way to communicate with a person that's feeling very difficult to you, to find a more healthy way to communicate. But it causes you to have to be vulnerable because you have to admit that you have a reaction in yourself. So you have to have awareness of what the reaction is before you can just tell somebody they're being difficult. Like, that's not going to go well. So the vulnerability starts with you in admitting what's coming up for you in the moment or in the conversation or the situation you're in to be able to engage with them in changing what that's going to be moving forward.
Yes. And one of those, maybe even before that happens, is how do you enlist, right? Do you have somebody else, like a trusted advisor, a friend, right? I think a colleague, but not in a way that's like, let me like villainize the person. So now we got
right.
like an
this is
army.
not like a hating club. Right.
I feel like for me, sometimes Tiffany, I've had this, like, maybe it's just me. Like, I just need somebody to level set because, again, you might not recognize the pattern, but people who love you, they might recognize the pattern with you. Like, or they might help you self-discover that pattern. So yes. I think sometimes, right, at the core, conversations are the relationship. Susan Scott tells us that. And so when you actually enlist somebody else, they can give you input, they can give you feedback on your DNA in it that maybe you're not seeing. I'm like, maybe I'm the crazy one. Maybe I'm the difficult one right now. And I just need somebody to like tell me whether or not that's the case. And sometimes I land on the difficult side and sometimes someone's like, no, that's a reasonable expectation. You had a reasonable expectation. And that allows like separating the facts from your feelings, like, right, how am I feeling about it in the moment? So I might've had a reaction. Like I am 100% in the perimenopause world. And so I feel like I get sometimes bigger feelings that I'm like, I'm having a big feeling right now. What is happening? I don't always have big feelings.
That normally I wouldn't.
That I wouldn't always have. And so there's a lot of energy sometimes. And I'm like, whoa, there's a lot of energy happening right now. So that helps like just level it out. And then what story are you telling yourself? Sometimes there's already a narrative that we've written about a person or we've written about a situation. And so when they do the thing, even if they maybe did 5 things that were actually like my therapist talks about serve a good ball. They actually served good balls, but I got one bad ball and I'm like, there was a bad ball. They're being difficult. And so just having that perspective. So I think this story you're telling yourself, who's that person for you? Even in our circle, I think we've got a great way in Empire Circle. Like sometimes you need your network to be like, whoa, I need somebody who could just listen. We got this text the other day. One of our Empire Circle members was like, I got an issue. Who can talk to me right now? And I thought, this is so good. This is why you need a strong network of powerful people in your corner.
Well, and I think it's so powerful, Kimber, what you said about how you approach the conversation, because I think a lot of times people may say, oh, this is where I can dig in on how I feel about it.
Yes.
But you framed, okay, I just need a new perspective on this. Like that's what I say whenever I'm having a difficult thing where I'm like, I'll call one of y'all and I'm like, I just need to tell you what's going on. And then I need you to give me the perspective that's different than mine. Like, here's how I'm perceiving it. I would like you to think of 3 other ways because you're not emotional. And so I would like you to give me 3 other ways that I should look at this because there are other sides of this. And if you approach this conversation with certainty versus curiosity about your place or the expectations you had of how that person should have responded, then talking to someone actually will hurt the ability to deal with difficult people. But if you approach it, like Kimber said, with openness and wonder, applying what Say said about like, what's my DNA in this? Where are my blind spots? Then it becomes a powerful tool for what we're going to do next with the difficult person.
And I think it's important to like help the person understand who they are for you in the moment, especially for women, right? Like if I need you to be that, right? I need you to help me reframe. I need you to give me perspective. Or like, I just need you to listen because I need to vent and unpack this. And when I show up with a difficult person, I'm going to need to like have it together and hold my emotional regulation. But I need to like be dysregulated for a moment. And I just need you to hold that space. And I think that's also really important when you're like setting that roll up. I know I've got people in my world who are like, they're like, who are we fighting today? Like, where do I go?
Yeah.
Where do we go?
Yeah.
Put me in. And so they just actually, they just ignite it even more. And so they're probably not the people I call when I'm actually trying to talk it through, because they're going to like be more angry about the situation than me. And that's sometimes good, but sometimes not good, right? If I'm actually trying to bring it down and come up, like Tiffany, you're saying, I need another perspective here. So I know who you're picking up the phone and whether or not they're going to be able to support you in the way that you need in that moment.
A good question I like to ask when somebody comes to me with this sort of a situation is to say, do you just need to talk? Like, do you just need me to listen? Or are we solving this? Which do you need me to be? Like, if I'm just listening, then I'm not giving any solutions. Like, we just need to get it out, right? But if we're solving it, then to Tiffany's point, maybe we're giving other perspectives or thinking through the way in which you can work through this with that person. So if you're being approached with this, maybe that could be a question you could ask the friend, so you know if we're getting the can of gasoline or if we're just putting on our little piece of tape over our mouth and listening. Yeah,
exactly. What are we doing right now? Because I'm here for either. Just let me know.
I will go get the shovel. I just need to know what my job is to.
I love it. Okay, so the next step you really should only do when you've followed the prior steps. So once you've talked it out with somebody, after you've examined yourself and you understand that you're going to need to move forward with this difficult person, the next thing that we do is you've got to talk to them. And here's a very important thing. You need to make sure you're talking about this privately. Like, you can't have let this difficult person get under your skin to the point that you are exploding publicly. That's not going to be effective. I mean, you can do it, but it's not effective.
It's not a good choice. Yeah.
It's going to amplify the difficultness.
That's right. That's really just going to make it worse. And then you got to start back at the beginning of all the steps. So you're looking to have a private discussion, which I think is the hardest part, where you come with curiosity, you come with your DNA, and you listen and look for the hidden need that this person may have. Like, often we just see the response. We don't see what they're responding to in their life. And so understanding there are so few people in the world who really wake up and are like, you know what? I cannot wait to be difficult to Seychelles today.
Yeah,
like, I
totally
want to be the most difficult person to deal with. That's just not what we say to ourselves. It's not how we were created. So there's something else. And you may not ever figure it out, but just kind of being open to looking and listening for the need. Like, maybe you didn't give them enough time. Maybe you had the wrong expectations. Maybe you caught them on a really bad day. I mean, I think all the time about, we call people on the phone. We have no idea what just happened to them.
Or like our clients, like they're dealing with probably a birth, a death, a marriage, a divorce, a new job, a loss of a job, something.
Yeah.
A move of their entire life to something else. Like, I mean, y'all, we deal with people under stress all the time.
All the time.
So if they're being difficult, sometimes it's just not you.
Right. And it's the situation. And so you can come with empathy to the situation about that. But you've got to stay calm. And you've really got to be neutral.
Oh, that's hard. That's so easy to say.
I don't know how to do that well, but I know that I've just got to not be attached to the outcome of the conversation either. And that's what helps me stay neutral. I just repeat to myself, be curious, stay curious, get out of certainty, be curious. And Seychelles already talked about this, and maybe Kimber did as well, but you've got to use I messaging with them. So this isn't you do this and you're the worst and I can't stand it when you do this is not an I statement, just in case you were wondering.
Well, it is, but it's not the most appropriate one here.
Right, that's true. It is an I statement that is ineffective.
That's right. It's not what we're talking about in this example.
Right. But it centers on your response, their action, and how you feel. It's that vulnerability Seychelles was talking about. If you can talk about your feelings in a authentic way in the situation, it will help often diffuse, because again, very few people are setting out to intentionally hurt you or to intentionally upset you. And so when you say, that really hurt my feelings, or that really made it difficult for me for the rest of the day, that will stop people often in their tracks.
So as empire builders, one of, I think, the biggest challenges early on in all of our growth is effectively managing time. Effectively knowing when appointments are going to end, cramming 900 things on the way home, not decompressing before you walk in the door, and then you walk in and you're just like a ball of fire walking in, with a million other things going on. And like just to model this for in our marriage, like that would mean I would come home later than I told Nick I would come home, and we had a little kid. I would not have thought through dinner, right? I would be working late or whatever that is, right? And it would cause him then to feel frustrated and like I was being difficult because he was having to react and deal with my lack of preparation, my lack of ability, my lack of planning caused a lot of stress on him. And I mean, he should go down in sainthood, but what he would say to me is to say, Seychelle, when you don't set proper time expectations and tell clients when you really need to leave the appointment and leave the appointment at that time and like plan for travel time and all those things, it causes me to be an hour late to go do whatever, or it causes me to have to cancel this, or it causes dinner to be cold or whatever it is. And that really frustrates me. In the future, I would appreciate it if you would give yourself 20 more minutes of breathing room in between your appointments. Or I would really appreciate it if when you say you're going to be home at 6, like in your head, maybe that means you need to be home at 5:30. So you show up at 6 or whatever the time is, right? But he did such a good job of modeling that. And it probably took us 6 months of having that conversation over and over again for me to learn properly. Don't be me, but to learn properly how to do that. But I think that's a very real example how we show up as the difficult person for our significant others being in the real estate industry, that they may be mad, passive-aggressive, explosive, short, frustrated, and we're walking in the door feeling like they're the difficult person, but it could be actually that our DNA is all the improper planning that we did to set that situation up is now causing them to explode, ignore, be frustrated, lash out, whatever, that we now feel like they're a difficult person. And so I just want to like model that out of like, that's a very real example of how I felt very like nervous walking in the door sometimes because I knew I had screwed up, but I felt like he was a difficult one, but really I was the problem.
Well, and I think one modification I would make in that is don't try to convince them of what the right path is. Because when you come into this conversation saying, this is the thing that you should do in the future, it can create a boundary between the two of you because now you're trying to convince them of your side of you versus, hey, Seychelle, this is what happens and I get really frustrated. Can we problem solve this? Like, what can we do so that, you know, I'm on time just as much as you're on time? And then you already know those things in your pocket that you were going to recommend, but it becomes like a brainstorm. That works with teenagers. Like anything you tell the teenager is automatically off the table. Like, zero chance it's happening.
That is a pro parenting tip right there. Pro.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So be open and like don't try to convince them of anything. Just be curious. How could this be solved? And I do that all the time with my kids. Like, I have no idea. Like, let's figure this out together. Like, I bet you've got some great ideas to bring to the table about this because I'm not even sure how to do this. And it empowers the other person. Then you've taken this conversation that can often feel like you're on one side and they're on the other side. And you've moved them to your side of the table and y'all are looking across the table at the problem together. When it's a relationship as important as parenting or spouse, like it may not be worth it with a like one-time client, but like move them to the same side of the table with you and y'all look at the problem together and don't try to convince them that your solution is right. Be curious and build it together because then you'll both have buy-in on the situation.
I love that.
Yes. I mean, this same side of the table is such even a concept, right? If you're struggling to say like, hey, I really want us to get to let me come to your side of the table and let's look at it, right? Together to solve it, I think is so powerful. And I think when we talked in the beginning about this reflection, it's really important to come into this space having had some reflection. It's like, right,
yes.
Say what you're saying. Because often if you can think about like, is there what do you appreciate about this difficult person? Is there something that you appreciate, right? Like, is the passion, maybe you don't like the way, my life, there was like, tone is a big thing, right? How you say it is really like, I immediately will get defensive if there feels like, oh, there's a very intense tone. But that passion has a lot of benefit. There was a lot of benefit to like the passion that somebody had around something. And so being able to acknowledge in a really like authentic way, not sarcastic, but I really appreciate how passionate you are about this topic. And when you speak like this way, it's hard. It creates fear for me. It makes me uncomfortable, right? It makes it difficult for me. Because then you're going into the I, but you led with this thing that actually was it disarms the person. Because if you're saying, can we have a one-on-one conversation? If somebody steps into the room knowing like there's already this like intensity, there's already this defensiveness, there's already this thing. And so how do you actually disarm it so that you at least set the stage for a problem-solving conversation that's not them as the problem, but like, hey, how do we solve this? What's a good way for me to like, how could I address something that's difficult with you? How could we solve that, right? What would it look like? So I think those are getting that place of, is there something I appreciate about this person that I could use in this moment to help?
I think the last part of this is you're not always going to be successful. So I'm going to use the word attempt here, but I mean it very sincerely we are going to attempt to reach an agreement and a way to move forward. And I think setting that out in the conversation to say, I love your passion on it. It's creating a reaction for me. And I really want to work together to like find a way for us both to like have wins in this situation. Or I can hear the stress in your voice right now. And I really want to make this where we're not feeling this in the future is a beautiful thing. And finding a way to move forward. Sometimes you're going to have to set boundaries. Sometimes you're not going to perfectly match it out, but maybe you understand where a red line is for you on a boundary, or you understand that there is a trigger point that is hitting, and you can try to work on a boundary that would allow you to either sidestep this person and move around and still operate in the same organization or in the same space. Sometimes it's figuring out a way in which you two can coexist and work together, even if it's not a win. But it's a baby win, and maybe it's an incremental small thing. And sometimes you just have to put a hard boundary up. That's, I would say, the last resort. That's like the very end of what you want to do. But sometimes you just have to protect your peace and put up a boundary. And that's okay too. We give you permission to do that. Just make sure you're doing it after you've tried every possible other way. Because I have found when we just put up boundaries all the time, we're just creating a lot of walls if we're not really working hard to figure out the wins in the situation too. And, I think too, Kimber made a great point of like, we want to solve the problem. This is not about winning the argument. It's not about being right. It's about there is a tangible problem and how can we solve this together? And mutually agree on maybe what the next one step or two steps are to get there, which I think is really great too.
Yeah. And I think when we think about it in our business as leaders, giving them the voice of saying what the mutually agreed upon outcome is probably the most powerful, because I know I've gotten in trouble before where I'm like, all right, so we've come to an agreement. Here's the agreement. Great. Moving on. And they never agreed. There was never agreement. There was just submission to the conversation.
Not really bought in on even what the problem was or the solution.
Yeah, like I had too much power in the conversation because I was the leader. And so they didn't want to lose their job. They didn't want to lose favor, like whatever that thing was. And so they left not truly in agreement. And so that's the modification I made after doing it wrong.
That's good.
Like when we're leaving, I'd like to hear from you what we've agreed to here. What's the right course of action? And that way I hear them. And if they're going to lie, they're going to lie. That's different. That's not what I'm saying. But most people can't say it if they don't understand it. Like if they didn't understand what we were agreeing to, then they're not going to be able to repeat it back. And so giving them the power of the last word helps you also understand where are they really in their mind with what we've done here. Because I can steamroll past and I can communicate it in a way that is clear to me without agreement from the other person.
Well, I think that's to me why it's so important what you said earlier of not being attached to the outcome of like, we're going to get to this place where I'm going to have like, they're going to have agreed to do this for me in the future. Right? Because I think that's where, especially for our empire builders, right? You are solution oriented. We want to like have a problem and have a solution. And now we have a path forward and we are good communicators. And those things, depending on the dynamic, like can mean that you will move right into like my kids are like, oh, she's in CEO mode. Like you're in boss mode. Here we go. Like, right. You're going to like, and so being able to really have to be aware, almost like saying, like you said, saying it to myself, okay, like I'm just listening, I'm just exploring, I'm just understanding, because that authorship is really ownership. And did they author the solution that you came up with, even if it's not the solution maybe that you walked in there thinking you were going to have, but that it's one that allows you to get to a place where you can navigate this person in that relationship.
Something too I'm thinking about that we didn't discuss in this situation or in this like conversation is restating back to the person what you're hearing their perspective to be. Like if Kimber and I were having a conversation like this, I would say like, Kimber, what I'm hearing from you based on this is blah, 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 blah. Am I understanding correctly what your perception is or what your perspective is? And if it's not, that gives them an opportunity to clear the air as well and let you know where they're coming from. Or my perspective based on hearing you is what you see the problem to be is blah, 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 blah. Like just restating it back to the solution like Tiffany modeled earlier, so good. I think also restating it to the problem, if you're the one bringing it up, they have a different perspective. Like frame it back. Maybe the problem you thought was the problem is not at all. So framing that back can help too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and if you've not read Fierce Conversations by Susan Scott, I think it should be a human requirement.
I read it every couple years. It's so good.
Like, it's so good. Frameworks of how to do this, how to talk about it right. Like, I am a better human because of reading Fierce Conversations. So I am a big, big fan of that book for sure.
And at the core, one of her core quotes, right? The conversation is the relationship. And so if part of this process, I think, is also an acknowledgement that you respect and value the relationship because you're leaning into the conversation. And most of the time, the misalignments are from a missing conversation. And just making the time one-on-one to sit with somebody honors them in a way that is often like one of the biggest steps we take to navigating challenging people and situations.
Understanding that literally changed my life.
Yep, absolutely.
So if we've had the conversation and we've come to some sort of agreement or whatever, or not come to an agreement, here's the last thing I want you to know about how to deal with difficult people. You need to have some sort of discharge of your own stuff. Like, you need to let yourself scream if you need to scream, or go on a walk, or do some deep breathing, or move your body. One of the things my kids like punch pillows or the couch. Like when they just cannot deal with it, it's like, go punch something. And so they go to the couch and just like punch it out. So be proud of yourself for not acting like a jerk, or be kind to yourself if you did act like a jerk. But if you're not attached to the outcome, you do need to have some sort of outlet for the feelings that you're going to have, unless you want to take that and be the difficult person to the next person that you interact with. So make sure you have some outlet for the yell, the scream, or just feel proud of yourself for how you handled it.
I love that.
I love it.
You guys, this is a hard topic. It's so much easier to talk about than to do. And if you are succeeding or failing in these, we want to hear from you. We want to hear how you did. We want to cheer you on. And we want you to know that every day we get better and better. And if you're going to build a big business and an even bigger life, this part is non-negotiable. It is just a big part of the process. And the more you do it, the better you will get at it and the less emotional you will be with it. And then you'll be a pro before you know it. So we believe in you and know you're going to be a pro at this if you're not already. And if you're going through something and you just need a win or want to tell us how you did, reach out to us. We'd love to hear. And if this episode was good for you, leave us a rating and review because we thrive off of those and hearing your feedback too. So go out there and build that big business and even bigger life. Bye, guys.
Bye. Have a great week.
Have a great week.
This podcast is for general informational purposes only. The views, thoughts, and opinions of the guest represent those of the guest and not Keller Williams Realty LLC and its affiliates, and should not be construed as financial, economic, legal, tax, or other advice. This podcast is provided without any warranty or guarantee of its accuracy, completeness, timeliness, or results from using the information.